Welcome to the module on Introduction to Social Welfare Administration. This is the first module of Social Welfare and Development Administration. This module will explain the various concepts related to social welfare. The learning objectives of these modules are to provide the learner with an understanding of what is social welfare administration, to clarify the concepts and give definitions and meanings to social work, social welfare, social development and administration. It will briefly look into the different models of social welfare administration, its history and the differences between public administration and social welfare administration. Social welfare administration is one of the methods in social work profession. The other methods are work with individuals, work with groups, work with communities, social action, social work research. Now, when we speak about social work as a profession, it aims at promoting well-being and improvement in the life of individuals and alleviates the suffering of the vulnerable and marginalized groups and improves their social conditions. Social work administration is a process by which we apply professional competencies to achieve certain goals. It is also called a process of transforming social policy into social action. The term social welfare is generally confused with social service, social reform and social security. In some countries, social services are included in the welfare services, whereas in others, all welfare services, including social services, come under the umbrella of social welfare. Thus, it is important to clarify the concept social welfare. Social welfare aims at the well-being and improvement of the life of individuals. It alleviates the sufferings and improves the condition of the destitute, deprived, disadvantaged and underprivileged section of society in particular. In other words, social welfare comprises income maintenance and support programs together with the wide range of social services that have been developed to meet the human needs and respond to the social problems. Though social welfare has come to acquire an identity of its own, it has to be considered in a relation to social development, a term that is widely used internationally. Social development is linked with economic and social, which means economic, which is material, and social, which is human growth. In this context, the social development includes the services of health and nutrition, education and training, social protection and shelter, which are needed to improve the human conditions. Social and welfare services of a country are the product of its social policies, which reflect the social goals and objectives it aspires to achieve. In short, social welfare encompasses social services, social legislations, social work, social security, and its two approaches that are social insurance and social assistance. To achieve the aims and objectives of the social welfare, the government formulates the social policies, enacts the social legislations, defines various projects, schemes and programs, makes financial allocations. It also provides organizational structure and administrative machinery in the form of ministries, departments, corporations, agencies, and solicits the support and cooperation of non-governmental organizations, that's voluntary organizations, for implementation of various programs. Thus, social welfare signifies the attempts made by government and voluntary organizations to help families, individuals and maintaining incomes at an acceptable level by providing medical care and public health services, by furthering adequate housing and community development by providing services to facilitate social adjustment and furnishing facilities for recreation. In addition, social welfare includes legislations and facilities designed to protect those who might be subject to exploitation and to care of those groups considered to be responsibility of the community. According to Freelander, social welfare is organized system of social services and institutions designed to aid individuals and groups to attain satisfying standards of life and health, personal and social relationships which permit them to develop to their full capacities and to promote their well-being in harmony with the needs of the families and the communities. From the Indian perspectives, social welfare signifies the provision of social welfare services of the society, underprivileged groups, scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, denotified tribes, orphans, widows, unmarried mothers, aged, women, children, socially maladjusted individuals, commercial sex workers, physically and mentally challenged, and the economically underprivileged. According to S. Rangaswamy, social welfare is an institution comprising policies and laws that are operationalized by organized activities of voluntary, that is private, or government, which is public agencies, by which a defined minimum of social services, money and other consumption rights are distributed to individuals in families and groups by criteria other than those of the marketplace or those prevailing in the family system for the purpose of preventing, alleviating or contributing to solution of recognized social problems so as to improve the well-being of the individuals, groups and communities directly. Ralph Dolgoff defines social welfare as all social interventions that are intended to enhance or maintain the social functioning of human being. According to Amy Gutman, social welfare includes all programs whose explicit purpose is to protect adults and children from the degradation and insecurity of ignorance, illness, disability, unemployment and poverty. Having understood the term social welfare, we shall try and understand the concept of administration. In order to carry on the welfare activities, administration plays an important role. The term administration can be defined as the sum total of all activities which relate to, first, the determination of objectives, plans, policies and programs. Second, securing resources, human, material and machinery. Third, putting all these resources into operation through sound organization. Fourth, controlling their performance to ensure achievement. Fifth, providing sense of achievement to the workers in the operation through financial and non-financial incentives. Now, what is social welfare administration? Social welfare administration is the process of efficiently providing resources and services to meet the needs of the individuals, families and groups and communities to facilitate social relationships and adjustment necessary to social functioning. A comprehensive definition of social welfare administration, however, is given in the curriculum study of the American Council of Social Work Education in the following words: administration is the process of transforming community resources into a program of community service in accordance with goals, policies and standards which have been agreed by those involved in the enterprise. It involves the problem solving process of study, diagnosis and treatment solution or actions and evaluations of results. In the following section, we will try to trace the evolution of social welfare in India from ancient to the post-independence period. The term social services, social reform and social security have come to be prominently used in the 20th century, but social welfare did exist even in the primitive societies. All religions imbibe the spirit of compassion and concern for the others, especially those in distress and deprivation, and help in giving a portion of their earnings in charity. In the ancient period, we see that all the religious scriptures of India, the Vedas, the Dharma Shastras, proclaim the duties of the kings to protect their subjects and promote their welfare. King Ashoka the Great has inscribed on his law that all men are his children, whose welfare and happiness in the world and the next must promote. Kautilya in his famous Arthashastra portrays the ingredients of a welfare state, which says that the state itself provided protection to the disadvantaged sections. Lastly, the period of Gupta Empire was rightly known as the Golden Age because the prosperity and happiness the subject enjoyed is evident in the analysis of the Indian history. The medieval period. The medieval period represents the Rajput government, Sultan regime and Mughal administration. Most of the Afghan sultans were more interested in their present well-being than the state. They resisted the development of education and charity. Shah Suri and King Akbar are acclaimed for the great contribution in the field of social service during this period. The British period can be split into two sagas. First, the East Indian Company's rule and the assumption of responsibility of administration by the British Crown. Second, the East Indian Company's primary role was to consolidate its conquered territories and maintain law and order. Other contributions also included public health and reform activities. The British period is also categorized by social services, social legislations, social security and social reforms, which will be briefly discussed. A. Social services activities are seen as follows: expansion and extension of public utility and social services. The Hunter Commission appointed in 1882, which focused on primary, secondary and technical education in the field of public health. The Royal Commission focused on health condition of the Indian Army. The Plague Commission 1904 recommended the enhancement of public health services, and the Government of India Act 1935 granted autonomy to provinces to provide for and administer public health and medical services. B. Social reforms. The Indian reformers and the reform movements were born during the British period that fought for the equality of rights for women and the abolition of institutions like untouchability, sati, child marriage and restriction on widow remarriages. So, C. Social security. Social security was provided in the form of compensation due to disability caused by accidents, death, old age, employment, etc. Many reformers urged the government to provide security and labor welfare, resulting in the Factories Act 1922, Indian Trade Union Act 1926, the Trade Dispute Act 1929, and the state also passed the Maternity Benefit Act. Having seen the social welfare and its evolution during the pre-independence era, let us see now the development of social welfare in the post-independent. It was only after independence The government realized the role of state in promoting people's welfare. The various social welfare measures by the Indian government after independence can be seen through first, the Constitution of India, second, the Planning Commission and 5-year plans, third, the social legislations and national commissions. The Constitution of India. The aim of the welfare state are clearly highlighted in the preamble of the Constitution. Fundamental rights, directive principles of the state policy, provisions for the welfare of the scheduled caste and tribes and the backward caste. Article 41 of the Constitution provides that the state shall direct its policy towards securing the right to work, to education, to public assistance in case of employment, old age, sickness, disablement. Thus, social welfare in India meant the development of human and other resources to promote better standard of living, to establish a social order in which all sections of the population will be given uniform consideration in their quest of security and equality both in rural and urban. Second, the Planning Commission and 5-year plans. Planning Commission is the chief instrument for translating into practice the constitutional provisions. It was set up in 1950, giving concrete shape to the aspiration expressed in the directive principles of the state policy by incorporating it in the various 5-year plans. The different sectors taken care in the 5-year plans are health and family welfare, social welfare, nutrition, backward class, education, housing, urban development, water supply, rural development, small industries, etc. As the social structures became more complex and the state had to respond to increase its role in providing services, the central government governing bodies had to ensure minimum administration to deal with the problems. Thus, in 1953, the Central Social Welfare Board was set up. The major objective of the board was to foster growth of voluntary social service agencies through well-planned and directed financial aid. In 1985, Social Welfare Department was established as a separate ministry and the areas of focus included welfare of scheduled caste and tribes, minorities, etc. The ministry is also supported by the subordinate organizations like National Institute of Social Defense, Institute of the Visually Impaired, Orthopedically Handicapped and Hearing Impaired, National Commission for the Scheduled Caste and the Tribes, etc. In 1998, the Social Welfare Department was renamed as Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Third, social legislations for social welfare in India. Social legislations was another step towards the social welfare and a few legislations enacted by the government of India since 1950. These legislations were to protect the civil rights, scheduled tribes, scheduled caste, minority, women, children, person with disabilities, elderly, etc. Besides drafting and implementation of legislations, the launching of important committees, commissions, policies to look into the issues of different groups and sections of population contributed towards upliftment of the marginalized groups. There are 4 models of social welfare administration, namely the familial model, the residual welfare model, the achievement performance model, the institutional model. The familial model. This model emphasizes on the role of family and thus families are considered as the most important system to provide social support and economic security, especially of the unemployed, children and the older people. Second, the residual welfare model. According to this model, assistance should be offered only when the normal means by which people get income is not provided, and when the family welfare mechanisms fail. The achievement performance model. This model states that the society accepts some responsibility for provision of social services in the area of health, education and social security, but the philosophy is that the individual should pay for the contribution of security schemes. The institutional model provides services universally to all, as also on a selective basis to those in special need. This approach to social and welfare services seeks distributive justice to state supported institutions and programs. Now we will look into the public administration and the social welfare administration. The public administration refers to that part of the administration which pertains to the administrative activities of the government. Public administration is the non-political bureaucratic machinery of the government for implementing its laws and policies, actions, collecting of revenues, maintaining law and order, functioning of the railways, the postal services, maintaining the army, etc. Kidney defines social welfare administration as the process of transforming social policy into social services and the use of experience in recommending modification of policy. Social welfare administration and public administration are the branches of political science. Public administration had its beginning in 1857. Woodrow Wilson is rightly called as the father of the public administration, whereas social welfare administration came into existence in 1946. Now we will see the differences between public administration and social welfare administration. Public administration is well established as a profession, whereas social welfare administration has to go a long way to be established as a profession. It is recent in its origin. Public administration emphasizes on the rules and regulations. Social welfare administration emphasizes on the art of handling human relationships. A public administrator requires more of managerial skills. A social welfare administrator should imbibe the qualities of dedication, sincerity, devotion. The public administration personnel observes their code of conduct more in breach than in compliances. The code of ethics for social welfare personnel embodies certain standard of behavior in their professional relationships. Public administration is a non-participatory in nature. Social welfare administration is participatory in nature. The role of the voluntary organization is highly recognized in social welfare administration. It brings out increasing association in a variety of ways to translate social policies into social services. Public administration activity are directed towards revenue expansion. Social welfare administration is carried out with noble objective of rendering service without any profit. Public administration implies formulating development plans at a broader level. Social welfare administration is based on the specific needs on particular communities, programs and services that have been formulated. Summing up the module. In this module, the learner has got an opportunity to understand the concept of social welfare administration and its salient features, the historical emergence of the social welfare administration in India from welfare to launching of social legislations for social welfare in India. Lastly, the learner also learned about the 4 models of social welfare administration and distinction between the social welfare administration and the public administration. The modules that follow will focus on both structure and functions of social welfare administration and development administration. Thank you for attending this session.